So in this video, we're going to be talking about some recent information that came out on the ATF's proposed rules on frames and receivers, and a letter they will be sending out to various FFLs in relation to so-called ghost guns. So let's talk about this. But real quick before I jump into this video, if you think the ATF needs to be abolished, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the supporters of this channel, which is Route 66 Shooting Sports Park down in San Bernardino. If you guys came out to the Armed May event, you know how amazing that range is, how amazing that staff is, and it's a really good time, and we're actually looking to maybe do another event this year. So again, if you guys are interested in that, comment down below that you would be interested in coming out to the event. Also, I want to let you know that this content is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. So head on over to joinfpc.org to help support the Second Amendment cause. Thank you again, Firearms Policy Coalition, for supporting this channel. So like I said in the intro, some news has been circulating around the internet in regards to the ATF's proposed rules on frames and receivers. A lot of you have been asking me about the status of the proposed rules on frames and receivers that the ATF introduced last year, and to this point, we really weren't hearing much after the commenting period had closed. Well, an article broke, I think last week, on the AmmoLand website that was written by John Crump, and it indicated that there were some emails that have kind of been found, I think, through GOA and through AmmoLand. The information that was obtained actually indicated that the ATF is likely months away from dropping their final rule on frames and receivers. The information gathered also indicated that the ATF will be sending out letters to various FFLs to gather information on how many 80%ers, kits, etc. are actually out there right now. Now, I want to give some quick background for those of you who aren't aware of what's going on. Last year, the ATF introduced proposed rules on frames and receivers. In that proposed rule, the entire goal was to broaden the definition of frames and receivers and essentially do that under federal law so that 80% lowers, kits, 3D printed items, and similar items would be considered to actually be firearms and therefore be regulated as such. Currently under federal law, an 80% lower is not regulated as an actual firearm. It is treated as just a piece of metal. However, the proposed rule sought to expand definitions so that these 80%ers would actually be regulated as firearms and be subject to serialization and background checks as well. This proposed rule also went as far as to try and bring 3D printed items within the definition of what they consider to be a firearm. The proposed rule was open for public comments last year, and here on this channel we tried to drive as many people as possible to comment on that rule. Now the comment period has closed and we're just pretty much playing this waiting game, and we're waiting for the ATF to respond. Well, this news now shows that the ATF realized they did not do their due diligence, and they did not do it before they actually introduced this proposed rule. It seems now that the ATF might have underestimated how many of these items were actually out there, and now they're trying to gather as much information from FFLs as they can to kind of determine what the cost-benefit analysis of this proposed rule actually is. Now, I've not seen any physical letters, and I haven't seen any pictures circulating around, so we just have to kind of go off what the claimed language is that will be included in these letters, but we don't know for sure right now because I haven't seen any pictures. In the letters that the ATF will be sending, they are asking, I guess, a variety of questions. These questions include, do you sell partially completed firearm kits? If the answer is yes, then it kind of has this drop down of other questions you have to answer. It says, approximately how many kits do you currently possess in inventory? If the proposed rule on the definition of frames and receivers and identification of firearms were to be finalized, what would you do with these kits? And then it also asks, how long do you estimate it would take to serialize a partially complete firearms kit in your current inventory? Then there are similar questions being asked to gunsmiths as well. They are being asked, do you offer gunsmithing services? If the answer is yes, then there's more drop-down questions. They ask approximately how many privately made firearms PMFs do you work on, repair, or otherwise take into work on in any given year? Are you capable of engraving or marking a firearm with a serial number? If not, and PMFs are required to be marked or engraved with a serial number, what would you do with future PMFs that individuals may bring into your store? Now, my opinion is this being done because of all the backlash the ATF has received from the public and also from Congress as well on this proposed rule. The ATF received multiple letters from members of the House and Senate, which demonstrated that even Congress believed that this was a clear violation of our Second Amendment rights. I think the ATF is really trying to decide how bad this will actually be if they decide to move forward with this final rule. Now, some people have been sending me a video that was done by another YouTuber asking lawyers on the internet how maybe an FFL should answer this letter if they receive it, how maybe they should answer some of these questions. So I'm gonna give my opinion on how I would personally answer this letter if I were to receive it, but also want to make it clear that although I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California, this in no way is intended as legal advice. If an FFL receives one of these letters, they should probably seek advice from local counsel. They should not be getting advice from the internet, from a YouTube video. Also, I would highly doubt that mom and pop shops are going to get this letter. It's likely going to be those major industries, manufacturers like Palmer 80% Arms, and it's likely going to be FFLs that are kind of larger big box gun stores. It's not going to be these mom and pop shops. It's going to be these larger companies, these larger manufacturers, these larger gun stores who likely also have the ability to get legal guidance on their own. Now, if the letter has language and it's saying under XYZ US code section, whatever, you are obligated to respond truthfully and honestly within X amount of days, then yes, I would answer the letter to the best of my ability as truthfully as possible, but also I'm going to use it as a way to kind of turn the narrative the way I want it to be. I would make my responses reflect the highest cost, the highest times, really the highest everything that it would take to actually follow and adhere to the implementation of this rule. The point would be to make the ATF second guess implementing this rule, and also it would help bolster why Congress should step in as well. Beyond that, if the ATF does decide to implement this as a final rule, this would undoubtedly lead to litigation. And as part of that litigation, if they have competent attorneys, whoever actually brings the lawsuit, those attorneys would seek the responses to these questions during discovery. And the higher the cost, the higher the time estimates, the harder it looks like to actually follow this rule, the better it is for litigation down the road. This makes it easier to make the argument that there is a clear overreach because there is a substantial burden in place by this final rule and a substantial burden on a constitutional right. So for the approximate amount of kits in my possession, I would put the highest approximate amount that I could. I would answer that I intend to follow the requirements outlined in the final rule. And if that means that I need to serialize all of these that I have in my possession, I would say, yes, I intend to serialize them and I intend to do it in-house. Then I would put the highest approximate time it would take to serialize one of these. And then I would also give the ATF the total time that it would take me to serialize all of these in my possession, and also how much it would cost me. How much it would cost me in just outright dollars, how much it would cost me in man time, pretty much everything. I would use this as my way of doing this kind of private commenting period to the ATF on this rule to really show and demonstrate how costly and burdensome this new rule would actually be. Also, I would not try to hide how many of these items are in my possession. I've seen some people just saying, well, the FFL should just answer that they don't have any of these. That really doesn't do us any good down the road for litigation, because we need to show that these items are in common use for lawful purposes. That's a big part of the legal analysis under Heller. And the more of these that we show are out there that are in common use for lawful purposes, that are in possession of law-abiding people, the easier it is to make that argument down the road in litigation to show that there are a ton of these and this is really a burden on our Second Amendment rights. However, the reality is that if the ATF really wants this final rule, no matter what we say, they're going to still try to put it in place. No matter how burdensome we show this is going to be, they will still try to implement this final rule. They change rules and definitions all the time. We've seen that with bump stocks. We've seen that with the rare breed trigger, solvent traps, braces, and now frames and receivers. They do it all the time. I would just treat this, however, as an opportunity to build up future cases that will likely come and challenge this final rule. Because if we can show a substantial burden on the right to keep and bear arms, that bodes well for us down the road and helps us actually win some of these cases when they pop up. So that's the news on the proposed rule on frames and receivers. That's how I would respond. If we get any more information, I will let you guys know. If we get any updates, I will definitely let you guys know. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos in this type of 2A news. Again, thank you to everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hit the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could have ever thought. Again, thank you guys so much for all of your support. I could have never dreamed that I could have a channel like this, videos like this, and I got to talk about guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment, cases, and all this stuff that is happening. And again, it's all because of you guys. You guys show me so much support, and I really do appreciate that. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, the station is built by armed scholars. The station will be maintained by armed scholars.